We acknowledge that this podcast is recorded on the unceded, ancestral, and occupied traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And furthermore, we thank the Chippewa of Saugeen and the Chippewa of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, who are the traditional keepers of this land. In some parts of Canada, treaties were signed with First Nations that gave incoming settlers rights to much of the land, while in other areas, few or no treaties were signed. Unceded land was never given or legally signed away to Britain or Canada. It was stolen and continues to be occupied and governed by settlers today. As we live, work, surf, and play, we say mahalo to the Métis, Inuit, and Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island and from around the world who have stewarded these lands and sacred surf spots for thousands of years. We recognize their amazing resistance, resilience, and strength in the face of ongoing dispossession, colonial violence, and injustice. In particular, we wish for justice to be brought for the murdered and missing Indigenous children and victims of Canada's residential school system. We believe that for true healing and harmony to occur, we must end the cycle of oppression while working together as we move forward in truth and reconciliation. We can be better, we can do better.
Hey! Chihuahua! Hey! Chihuahua! Hey! Chihuahua! Hey! Chihuahua!
Sam Moffatt, welcome to the Permastoked podcast, dude. How are you, man?
Thank you very much, man. I'm doing great.
Awesome. Well,
Doing
hey,
great.
awesome, dude. It is great to have you here on the podcast. Can you hear a little bit of a wheezing noise by any chance?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, don't worry. That's just my computer dying. Pretty
Okay,
sure it's going to flat out die one of these days mid-podcast.
that's all right.
Hopefully
I've-
you're not the guy it
I've
happens
been there.
to.
I've been there. Sometimes when I'm editing, it's one of those things too where I'm like, well, is this the last session or what is what's
Yeah,
happening?
absolutely. So, Sam, where am I talking to you from today, man?
So I'm in East York in Toronto, Ontario.
Okay. You
Yeah.
are a Toronto guy. Are you born and raised in Toronto?
Born and raised.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You're a
been an East Ender my whole life.
true blue Torontonian. So when you say East Ender, is that like, or no, is that the Scarborough and the Bluffs and stuff? Or
So East York is right before Scarborough.
okay.
So Scarborough is just a little bit more east of us, but yeah, so kind of like Lake Ontario is my home ground, but like Ashbridges, Bluffers, that's kind of
Bluffers, yep.
those are my main spots.
Right on, right on. So Sam, you are a photographer and a surfer. What came first, the surf or the photography?
To be honest, the surf, although I'm not a very good surfer.
Okay.
I
Hey, that's
I,
okay.
I know the basics and can stand up on a board, but I definitely prefer to have a camera in my hand
Yeah.
in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's probably almost 7 or 8 years ago now. I did this solo trip to California and went from San Francisco all the way down to Los Angeles. And that was the
Okay.
first time I had ever surfed.
Oh, okay. Did you
Yeah.
go out there seeking surf? Like this was going to be your big moment?
To be honest, I knew I wanted to surf for sure.
Okay.
But I didn't think it was going to be like, okay, I'm just going to go down the coast and surf every day. I've had this fascination with California my whole life, like since
Yeah.
the first time I went there on another family trip, and I was like, I need to surf there next time.
Yeah.
I started off as a windsurfer first.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to try surfing for sure. But that was incredible. I remember it so well because I remember still being in Toronto trying to plan a trip. I'd never really gone anywhere on my own before,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I don't want to be taught by someone who I don't know. Like I want to kind of get to know someone. I want to find that cool surfer dude who just like has an extra surfboard and will teach me in Santa
Oh,
Cruz.
okay. Yeah.
And it's literally what I found. I found someone on
Really?
Craigslist, and I was like, I'm either gonna die or someone's gonna be really cool.
Was this even like a paid instructor or just a
Yeah, yeah.
random dude?
No,
Okay.
it was paid. Um, to be honest, I forget who I contacted first, but I think it was kind of like a semi pro that I didn't know, and they're like, "I'm actually going to be surfing in Mexico, but I'll send you over to my buddy Eric, and he's a great instructor, and he'll be awesome." And I'm thinking, cool. This is my like say yes trip, so let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I remember Eric rolling up to my hotel in his like rusty pickup with two foamies in the back, and I was like, "This is exactly what I dreamed it would be. This is
That's
this is
awesome.
perfect." Yeah.
Wow. That's funny. The first California trip I went on, I was 17, and we also went to Santa Cruz, California, and that's where I think I rode a boogie board in the ocean for the first time.
Oh,
And that
nice.
was before I had surfed, about a year or two before I probably went on a surfboard for the first time. So that was also kind of influential. What a sick town, eh?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I still dream every day of living there one day. I just don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, photography is great, but I don't know what job I'm gonna have that's gonna get me to live in Santa Cruz anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you might have to just really step up your surf photography game and
Yeah,
join the royalty out there pretty much.
yeah, get in with some of those heavy hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, you're from you're from East York.
Yeah,
Take me through a bit about yourself, man. I understand that you had another career before photography.
yeah. So I actually started off as a musician first. I mean, I guess from the point where I was 15 or 16, I started taking voice lessons and was
Mm.
singing and doing a lot of theater performance.
Oh, wow.
Was learning piano at the same time, so the studio that I learned to sing, I ended up music directing stuff there and getting really involved in the music world.
Oh, wow.
Um, when I was first doing lessons, it was mostly classical voice stuff. So when it was time to go to university, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to go to school for at
So,
first.
when you say classical, what are we talking? Are we talking like stage shows like Wizard of Oz and stuff, or like what kind of music are you singing?
No, classical voice is more like on the opera side of things.
Oh, okay.
But I was also working on that stage show type stuff. So
Oh, okay.
that'd be considered musical theater. Um,
Okay.
all that. So I had a teacher who I did a little bit of both with. Um, but for school, you kind of have to pick your. There's schools that have musical theater programs, and you can do all the theater stuff. But I wanted to go through to be an educator. So if you wanted to do that,
Mm.
you had to do a classical program. So I ended up going to U of T and doing a classical voice kind of slash education thing. So I did voice for 4 years and then did teachers college afterwards.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so music's always been a huge part of my life, kind of like multi instrumentalist, doing a little bit of writing here and there, performing, music directing. I've loved it. I still love it now.
Yeah. What kind of
Um,
instruments do you play?
piano and guitar are my
Oh,
main
okay.
are my main instruments. Yeah.
Awesome. Not a percussionist?
No, to be honest, like there's a lot of things I can pick up really
Mm.
well, and percussion is not one of those things.
Oh,
I've always
okay.
just accepted, you know what, I'm never going to be a drummer, and that's
I
okay.
wonder if that works the other way too, because as a drummer, I've tried multiple times getting on a string instrument. The most luck I've ever had is with the ukulele
Yeah,
horsing
yeah,
around. But I feel like I just don't get music at all. But what I like about drums is I don't have to read music. I don't have. It's just about feeling the beat, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
what I've loved about like music directing, whether it be a musical, like let's say I was the conductor for it, or I was playing in an orchestra, I've learned so much from the other musicians.
Mm.
Like there's one drummer, a friend of mine, Justin Hahn, who I've played a lot of shows with, and at the beginning, is when I was first starting out as a music director, I didn't really know, what to ask of someone, and I learned so much from him because I was like, I don't know anything about percussion, and then it
Okay.
helped. It helped me so much because now I'm like, okay, I know the lingo, I know what to ask for, I know
Yeah.
what a drummer wants to hear.
Yeah.
Um, and then like on the piano side, I obviously know like what one of them needs to hear, but
Mm.
it's like you don't want to sound like a kook and be like, yeah, can you do a little more,
Yeah, a little more of this.
yeah, yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da.
So I think it's always that balance of like being respectful in the sense of like it's okay to not know everything and
Yeah.
just be open about it. Be like, what do you need from me in this
As
thing?
a drummer, I find it funny when you show up to jam with some guys or practice, and everyone's like, "Give me an A, do do do." Oh, that's out of tune. And like, as the drummer, you're just sitting there like, "Can we get on with it, guys?"
Oh my
Like,
gosh, yeah, 100%.
all the tuning and the yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you what a C chord is by a G. I couldn't tell you that any day of the week as a drummer, but you guys, I actually really admire musicians for that fact that it's like this different part of your brain or something you're using.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
and especially being like I loved studying at U of T. I knew I didn't want to be an opera singer. It was just one of
Mm.
those like I had to do classical music to do the program that I wanted to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I know I'm trying to envision you like, I don't know, with a phantom mask on or
yeah,
like,
I'm definitely more on like I definitely prefer like soul R&B pop type stuff. Like
okay.
that's what I like to sing. I mean, when I first started playing guitar, it was all metal. Like that's what I loved. So like it's always
Okay.
been a broad spectrum. I don't really discriminate against any style of music. If it makes me feel something, I'll listen to it. I don't care. I don't care what
Yeah,
it
because
is.
right now I could just imagine you with like plugs in your ears and you'd be giving off this real like anthrax
Oh yeah,
vibe
yeah.
or something. But then you're talking about, you're talking about opera and, show tunes. And it's like, wow, this guy is pretty diverse. Like, yeah, don't, judge a book by its cover, I
It's
guess.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
And I love, to be honest, it's the thing that I love between the photography world and the surf world and my music side of things is those two worlds don't really uh, ever collide
Mm.
at all. Like I kind of have my friends in both sides,
Oh, okay.
and unless someone like follows both my accounts on Instagram or something, they don't even know that the other person exists. You
Oh,
know?
I see. So
So I
the music Sam and the photography surfer
yeah.
Sam are, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, because I remember like some people who follow my photography account who I've either performed with or whatever, they started seeing the surf stuff and they're like, hold on, we don't understand. Like, where's this?
Mm,
A, where are you doing this and where does this come from? Even when I first got into photography, like I I guess it was probably 6 or 7 years ago now, I really just bought a camera to take better YouTube videos as a singer.
mm.
There
Oh,
was
really?
no, like, I
That
enjoyed
was the
that.
intention.
Yeah, yeah. There was no, I appreciated photography, but there was no like, I didn't grow up being like, I love taking photos. I want to do this. Um, but when I had the camera there, I started taking some photos just for fun. I was like, I have this like nicer DSLR camera. I might as well go take some shots, and I became addicted to it.
Mm,
And then through theater, someone asked me, they're like, "Hey, will you take a headshot for me?" I was like,
mm.
like I don't really know how to take a headshot, but I'll try. Like, don't
Yeah.
pay me for it, obviously, because I don't know what I'm gonna provide for you.
Well, you don't
Uh,
hear that very often.
yeah,
Don't pay me for
don't pay me
this.
for it. So
Wow.
you can pay me for a lot of things, but I don't trust this ability yet.
Yeah.
And they really liked the shots that they had.
Oh, okay.
And then someone else asked, and then it kind of just started to snowball from
Oh,
there.
okay.
And I fell in love with it. I think I needed that artistic thing that wasn't music related. Like I
Mm,
love music, but sometimes even the things you love so much, you do need a break
yeah.
from it.
So was
Like
music something you grew up with in your house? Like, was this your world, music with your parents and things too, or?
to be honest, I was really like the only one in my family to do it.
Oh, okay, okay.
My grandpa on my mom's side was a singer, and I really only knew him for a short period of my life.
Yeah.
But like my mom worked at a hospital, my dad's a retired firefighter,
Oh, okay.
so I mean they both really enjoy music. I was exposed to a
Gotcha.
lot of music, listening wise.
Yeah.
Um,
But
and
they
yeah,
weren't expecting you to become a musician. That was your own
yeah,
passion. So,
yeah, it was my own thing, and I
okay,
luck out with two parents who are really supportive
great.
of that
Yeah.
kind of whatever path I take. So it was really awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
So they're like, okay, our son got into music. Now he's doing photography. Like, can you pick a career with a guaranteed income? Like,
that's that's the story. That's the story of my life. too.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I've always like I've really kept these two things strong, but I have so many interests that
Yeah,
sometimes I gotta let them go to focus on the things that I'm really passionate about. Like music and photography will always be my things.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah. You can get too much stuff
oh yeah,
sometimes. Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about what you were saying and relating it to myself. And when I was living in Vancouver, similarly, the surf thing and the surf thing has always been there. But then I really got into paddleboarding hard. But then around the same time, I also got into yoga. And then I was also doing like some improv and stand up comedy.
oh
So in
nice,
Vancouver, I was a part of these sort of like different communities as well, and especially the yoga community I was a part of was like it wasn't just like stretching yoga. It was like very spiritual, very like woo woo out there yoga.
yeah yeah
So that crowd versus like the comedy crowd and everybody roasting each other. It was really cool, but hey, that's what makes life colorful,
yeah. You
having
know,
those different experiences. But similar to you, I was thinking they would have thought the same thing though. Like, really? Like Yoga Derek has a podcast or surfs or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. I know, and to be honest, I kind of love that about people, and just as you get to know people more and more, you're like, wow, there's all these different layers to
Yeah.
someone. Like
Hmm.
I'm the same guy that can want to sit down at a piano and like sing a R&B tune, and
Yeah.
then roll up to the surf spot like listening to hardcore hip hop. Like they
Wow.
they both
Yeah.
exist
Yeah.
in my
Nice.
life. It's like whatever's got to get you going at the time.
So you took a headshot of someone who was a part of the concert or whatever. So, so take us through there, man. How did you decide? Uh, I'm going to focus less on the music and more on the photos. And then how did you integrate that with your surfing?
So the photos kind of continued on for a while, and I just started branching out more and more into what I wanted to shoot. So I
Mm,
do a lot of portrait work, and I knew I loved working with people. I wasn't really interested in landscape photography at all. I was like, I love working with people, um, and I feel really comfortable in this environment and just kind of exploring.
yeah. And
Fast,
now let me just interrupt you. Sorry
yeah.
about that. There must be a million photographers in Toronto
Oh yeah.
and and a million photographers that are educated,
Yes.
right? So here you are, like uneducated, just kind of more hobbyist.
Yep.
So this obviously took a lot of courage on your part to stick with this.
It was something I must say I was like very respectful of,
Mm,
because I also knew some people who had gone to school for it, and I was like, I know I have to kind of earn my spot
mm,
as well. And I tried not to ever overstep that. Like, yes, you want to get work and you want to try new things, but there was also a lot of like collaborative work. I knew
mm,
I had to build up a portfolio of stuff and be able to show someone. I wasn't just going to be like, by the way, I bought a nice camera, pay me to take photos. Like some people
yeah,
do that, but I was like, that's not really how I work. I think I got to earn it. And I
yeah,
also knew that I had to learn some things because I wasn't fully comfortable in my environment yet. Um, Instagram was an amazing thing for that. And I mean,
yeah.
and the joy of like knowing people in the musical world is they usually love having their photo taken. So if I
Ah,
just wanted to be like, hey, I have an idea for a shoot, can I try something
yeah,
on you? And they'd be like, yeah, sure, because there's no stress, there's no money involved. It's like if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't,
yeah.
whatever. It's a whole learning experience. Um, and then when it kind of shifts to someone wanting to pay you for what you've created because they've liked what you've seen, then I think it kind of moves past the educated or not.
Mm,
I mean, there's still like one of my good friends. She's an amazing photographer, Shay Conroy. She went to school. I think she went to Sheridan for photography, and I love looking at her stuff because I learn a lot. Because she probably thinks about photos in a different way than I do.
oh, okay.
Because of the school background, she's also just a different creative. You
Yeah,
know, and I think I learned that from other photographers. We all approach it in a different way.
yeah.
Um, Sometimes I've created the stuff that I have because of trial and error.
Mm,
I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, and then I figured out that something worked, and then I continued to do that. But
Yeah.
it definitely is kind of scary at the beginning because there are so many out there.
Yeah.
And I
I
mean, and there's
mean,
a,
and this is the thing about photography is you don't even need to go to school. Like with YouTube and everything these days, you got a million, everybody's an expert on the
oh yeah,
subject, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot for someone to earn your trust,
Mm,
especially if they're going to pay you for it,
yeah.
because there's also 20 other people that they can hire that they can find in like in a second,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of it is like, yes, showing your work and also building a relationship and them knowing, because it is a very personal thing. Like some people
Mm,
hate having their photo taken, but they need a photo taken, and it's like, how do I make this person feel comfortable? Because
mm,
I know I can do my job on the side, but if someone looks awkward in a photo, there's nothing you can do in Photoshop to make them
yeah.
make them look like they didn't want to have their photo taken, right?
So what's the secret to getting them in that comfortable space?
I usually don't even bring out my camera at the beginning. I just
Mm,
start having a conversation with
okay.
people. I mean, especially something like a headshot, it's very like just just a tight thing of them, and it's if someone doesn't feel super confident about all their features, it can be nerve wracking. But I mean,
Yeah.
even in sport, like getting back to surfing, you take a photo of someone that you may love and they don't love their form on a wave
Mm,
of something. Like it's really hard sometimes because you like love a shot and they're like, oh, this isn't like I don't know if I want to portray myself as this
yeah.
surfer. It's tricky.
Mm. I've been a part of a few photo shoots, but the one that really stands out to me is one that we did last year, around this time actually, for the initial launch of our website, Freshwater Surf Goods. And we did
Yep.
it with a photographer in Vancouver. Her name was Savari Campillo. And we become friends, and she's a wonderful person and very talented. But what you're saying, what stood out to me, same thing. She established a relationship in the beginning because she was going to be up in my face all day, making
Yep.
me smile, making me be vulnerable and goofy. So the fact that we had to have some kind of connection, I think, was really important, and it really broke the ice. But one of the things she did that has separated her from any photo shoot I've ever done, even including our wedding photographer, which who was also amazing though, by the way. But this Sawari, what she was doing was she was constantly resetting my face. She'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, blink, or like put your face down, now look up. And so one of my big dilemmas with photographs of myself is I often find I have this like stupid looking resting face. Um, but with her doing that, it kept it fresh and the photo shoot was great. And I really liked the way I looked in the photos, and I typically don't. So there's definitely a difference between, yeah, someone experienced and someone new on the block.
Yeah. And I honestly think as soon as people start to forget that they're having their photo taken, which is a
Mm.
difficult thing to do, that's when the best photos start.
Yeah.
Like when you're just sharing an experience back and forth and one person happens to have a camera, that's usually when you get the best shots. When someone's not
Yeah.
trying anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
I know like I don't really work in the like fashion industry or anything. I know that's very calculated and specific, and a
Mm.
lot of them like
Yeah.
model for a living and they know exactly what to do. A lot of people that I work with, that's not what they do for a living. So you're like, okay, how do we get this person comfortable really quick?
Yeah.
Because yeah, because I'm gonna put the camera in your face eventually today
Oh,
because you did
wow.
pay me to do it, so it's gonna it's gonna
Yeah.
happen. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's different every time. It's the
Okay.
beautiful thing about working with people. Like every person's different. Some
Mm.
people just want to get in and get out. I mean, more so with headshots. If someone books you
I
for a
see.
shoot,
Yeah.
like they know that they're gonna have their photo taken.
Yeah.
But like you do a family portrait or something, yeah, maybe one person booked the portrait, and the ten other people don't want their photo taken, and you're like, okay, well, it's gonna be a tough day on the job
Oh, cool.
today.
Yeah. Now, the thing with surf photography, though, is that I started surfing in the late 90s on the Great Lakes, and there certainly were not photographers lined up for me.
Yeah,
Um, and now I'm finding it's a whole new scene these days. And like you said, Instagram. I mean, I am seeing photos of people surfing on the Great Lakes that are like riding the lip and doing these cutbacks and airs, and I'm like, whoa, like what planet am I on? Like
Yeah.
honestly, I started surfing the Great Lakes. I got my longboard, and it was about that cruising, but it's like a whole nother animal now. The talent is off the charts,
Yeah, it's
and
wild.
the photos are amazing. And I mean, who doesn't want their photo taken surfing?
I
Everybody
know.
wants to score that shot. I'm thinking, man, when can I get Sam up here? I gotta get a good shot of myself already. But so I mean, when it comes to paying for professional photos, that's one thing. But when you show up at the beach and you start taking photos of people doing what they love and they get to go show their friends after, they're pretty stoked. I remember being in Kincardine, and you've probably met Donald LeBlanc. I know he
Yeah, yeah.
showed up and he was shooting, and then he'll sell some of the shots later. I think that's a genius business model.
Yeah.
For all for every as the sport grows and the more and more people out there. So
Yeah, and to be honest, it's like a little bit of a touchy thing
mm,
sometimes because I mean, when I first started shooting in the water, at least, I was kind of just like I was very. I mean, and I haven't been shooting in the water that long. I was like,
yeah,
okay, I just want to experience this, do it. Hopefully, I get some good stuff to send to people.
yeah.
It wasn't even like I want to send something to someone for exposure. I was like, I just want someone to have this photo other than me. Because if
Oh,
I was
okay,
that surfer, I would want the shot.
yeah.
And then I
Which
was like,
is like a free gift at
yeah,
this point. Yeah.
yeah. And then I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm really happy with what I'm getting. This definitely has value to it. Um, I mean, you end up forking out a lot of money to be a surf photographer. It's not a
Mm,
cheap hobby, that's for
yeah.
sure. But I've always had this thing like I'm really close with the surf community, with the surfers, the shops, and everything. And I never want it to seem like I'm that person showing up because I want to make money
I
from
see.
everyone.
Yeah.
Like I'm there for the sport and the art first.
Gotcha.
But I do think that if someone really wants the photo, then it's fair for there to be an exchange of money for it.
Yeah.
But I do, and the people who know me know that for sure. But if it's
Yeah.
someone new, I'm like, I really hope I don't look like that businessman who's just showing up in his 6 mil with his camera,
I
being
see.
like, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
you went by me. But I did hear one of my friends, he was riding by the other day at one of the spots, and I thought it was a funny joke. He's like, "Frig, I know like every time I ride by, I'm like, just like, boom, there goes $20, boom, there goes $20 because I'm gonna want
Yeah.
this shot." And it was a nice compliment, but I was like, yeah, it's it's funny because I do get it, and it's a new
Yeah.
experience for people on the greats because there's not. I think there's really only me. There's another photographer, Mitch Hubble, who's in the water. I think he shoots more. I don't see him on Ontario. I've actually never met him in person. We just
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's so much of it. We follow each other on
Yeah.
Instagram, right? Um, but like you were saying, with that many photographers that are shooting it now, for me, that was kind of like a natural next step.
Mm,
I didn't want to take the land shots anymore
I see.
because I didn't think I could get. I mean, there's it's like anything in any art form. You see some photos of other people and you can't help but compare
Yeah.
sometimes. And I was like, okay, I think I'm doing this well. I think this person also does this well. But I know the water and how it works really well, and I understand the sport. Why don't I step this up a level? And I would really love to be close, like right in the
Yeah.
action.
Mm.
And luckily, like I shoot a lot with Surf the Greats in Toronto.
Yeah,
Um,
I noticed that. I was going to ask you about that. So they are
yeah,
on your client list then.
yeah. And to be honest, I owe so much to them
Mm,
because my first surf photo ever taken was I found them on Instagram.
mm.
Didn't really know. I saw someone surf the Greats once, like in my
Oh,
life
okay.
before. I was like, oh, someone's going out to surf. That's cool. I saw their account. I sent a message to Antonio, and I was like, hey, I'm a photographer. I've never shot surf before. I'd love to experience it. Could you let me know when you're going out one time? And he was like, yeah, bro, for sure. He sends me a text like one night. It's like, I think we're going at first light tomorrow. I'm
Okay.
thinking like, oh my god, I'm a musician. First light is like I'll go to bed at first light. Like we
Yeah,
don't
really.
do
Yeah.
this.
You've been up playing the concert hall all
Yeah.
night.
So I followed them to the beach one time, and I mean it was a little bit awkward because I didn't know who anyone was, and
Yeah.
it wasn't a planned shoot. I was kind of just like, can I follow you around and take photos, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But super super nice and like instant. I was like, wow,
Mm.
this community's amazing because they're
Yeah.
all really friendly. Um, and then from there, I just started to try and figure out when people were going to be surfing, how the
Mm.
forecast worked, and shot a lot from land, tried to be close to home, find out where the spots are elsewhere on Lake Ontario. Or,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I hadn't really shot Lake Erie until this past fall.
So you weren't
Um,
surfing even at this point. You were shooting people surfing.
yeah, shooting people
Okay.
surfing.
Okay.
Um, I shoot some lessons for Surf the Greats. So what I'll do sometimes is at the end of a lesson,
Hmm.
when everyone's packing up, I'll take one of their boards and I'll go
Okay.
catch a few before I pack up my stuff. So that's kind of how
There
I
you
sneak
go.
them in. Because
Yeah.
there's part of me that although I do want to be a better surfer,
Hmm.
whenever it's a good day for surf, I get excited to get my camera out.
Scotty Sharon, he used to be published in SBC Surf Magazine all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, I was talking to him and I was editing that show today, so it's very fresh in my mind. But same thing with him. He was saying, if I went out surfing 5 times in a year, I'd be happy. He's like, when there's surf, I want to be photographing. Like that is the surf experience for you guys. Like some of
yeah,
you guys are, that's where you get your thrill is getting the shots, not getting the waves, I guess.
yeah. And to me, like I've always kind of been an adrenaline junkie to a
Mm.
certain extent. Like I mountain bike a lot. I love it, like anything that gives me a bit of a rush.
Yeah.
And I think it's not that I don't want to be a better surfer, but I get so much more enjoyment from taking the photos and being in the water
Yeah.
that I'm like, I want that feeling.
Mm.
And I mean, and I love really heavy days.
Oh,
Like
okay.
the bigger the days, I'm like, I don't care what it's like out there. Like get me like just show when that forecast is going red, let me know what's happening. I wanna be out
Yeah,
there in
yeah.
that. Because to me it's also like there's that bit of a fear factor in it. I want to get the
Mm.
cool shot of someone, but I'm also like, I'm going to be safe. It's always important to be safe in the water. I'm like, but I do like that bit of a, okay, you got to have your head on a swivel because today is going to be a real one. Like it's going
Yeah.
to put you to the test.
So when you go out to surf, or sorry, to photograph surf, what is your setup like? Like, what are you going out on? Are you going out with a surfboard, or are you going out with fins and your camera, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm always out with fins. Um, People ask that all the time. Actually, if I go out
Hmm.
on a board, I know a couple surf photographers. I mean, I know a couple in Hawaii who go out on boogie boards and just
Mm.
have that flotation out there. I've found at least on the Greats because things are kind of coming from everywhere
Yeah.
all the time. Um, just having my fins is the best for me. For most of the season, I'm in a 6'4".
Mm.
So it has that little added bit of float to it, obviously as well.
Yeah.
But I need to be able to get under. Like I'm
Yeah.
duck diving. I would love to count how many times it happens in a session
Mm.
because pretty much anything sizable, I try and go under instead of floating over top. Um,
Gotcha. So
because
are
I
you
always
usually in water over your head then? Are you
depends on the spot.
okay?
But to be honest, I prefer to be in water over my head
Yeah.
if I
Okay.
can. Yeah, I find whenever I start to feel the ground on my feet, I mean, it's more stable for me to take a photo
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
can stand. But the wave has so much more power over me when I don't
Yeah.
have that water underneath.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so like when I shoot on, there's a couple spots. I'm always like, oh, I can't see the spot. There's a couple spots
Yeah.
on Erie
Yeah.
that like sometimes I'm standing, sometimes I'm swimming, and I definitely prefer to swim.
Oh, okay.
But there's also, yeah, to be honest, it depends how the rip works as well. Sometimes
Mm.
you can stand in a spot and it's nice and your feet can stay solid, and other
Yeah.
times it's just like tearing at your ankles the whole time, and you're like, this would actually be easier if I was swimming the whole time.
Okay.
And to be honest, on the really cold days, I would rather be swimming because it
Yeah.
forces me to stay warm.
True enough. Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
submerged the whole time. So if I'm standing there, I don't last very long.
Yeah. When I'm doing surfing lessons, I often don't have a surfboard with me, and I'm just out there instructing and pushing people and stuff. And man, I have so much fun just hanging out in my wetsuit, like you're saying.
Yeah,
They have so much flotation. the 6'4" or whatever it is we use for winter. Oh my God, that is so much fun in itself. Just
It's amazing.
yeah,
You're just there. You're chilling. You feel the push and pull of the
yeah,
water. Um, I mean, and you learn quick. I think it's a great thing. I mean, I think if a lot of surfers could take an opportunity just to swim in the waves, even the way they
yeah,
paddle out would change because when you can't float on top, like the water's gonna win every time. So you have to
yeah,
use it to your advantage.
yeah,
And especially when you're swimming in it, if you try and fight it, you get tired out and your session's done.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I mean, I know like the whole community looks out for each other, but in the water, you kind of get forgotten a little bit more as a surf
Mm.
photographer because people aren't that focused
Oh,
on
I
you.
see. Yeah,
So there is always that back of the mind, like, okay, I got to make sure, like, when am I getting too cold? When am I too tired? I got to make this call myself because I don't have anything to float on.
yeah.
Afterwards, I got to
And
swim out
not
of
to
this.
mention, uh, am I positioned properly?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure if you found yourself in some pretty close calls with
Oh
boards
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And to be honest, like that's actually the interesting thing. Talk about a difference of shooting a portrait where you're trying to build that relationship with someone. With surfers, you don't really
yeah,
get that chance. All of a sudden, you're just in the water with them, and sometimes they know you, sometimes they don't. I love when like I'm out with friends because
yeah,
they know like I want you to buzz right by my face. Like
yeah.
depending, because I also have a couple friends that can't turn. So I'm like, by the
Oh,
way,
okay.
you can stay far away, and
Yeah.
I'll take a shot. Um, I think I inherently have a lot of trust for people,
Mm,
whether they're
yeah.
good or not. But I think my duck dive's pretty on point.
Oh, okay.
So
That's good.
I always know at one point I'm like, okay, I gotta go under
Yeah.
because sometimes you can't control it when you're riding. Sometimes you just can't control it. Like or I surprise them, like they don't see
Yeah.
me behind the other peak, and then they're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
why is
Where'd you
there's a
come
head
from?
and a
Yeah.
camera in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm looking at your Instagram here, and you got some great shots. And um, you got this one I can't help but really like, and it's that perfect like shot of Larry Cabrero that looking right at the camera.
yeah.
Really great timing. You got
I
another one here. Sorry, go ahead. What were you
I
gonna
was
say
just gonna
about
say I
that?
love shooting with Larry.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he. I try and follow him to the water anytime.
Oh,
Same thing.
okay.
It's like building a relationship. Like, I love chatting to him in the parking lot too.
Yeah.
But I know that like if I'm in the water, he usually tries to come close to me. Both like it's
Okay.
kind of like a balance. Like yeah, the surfer gets a photo of himself, but also it like helps me get the shots as
Yeah.
well. And I
Yeah.
really trust him as a person and a surfer. So I'm like, yeah, you can come close to me as much as you want because this is awesome. And there's certain surfers where like even if you look on my Instagram, like I get more shots of them because
Mm.
of that. They're like, okay,
Okay.
I know where Sam's gonna be. I'm gonna fly by there where other people are just trying to catch what they can catch. And that's
Yeah.
fair too. I'm not saying, by the way, when I'm in the water, everyone focus on me and try and come by. I'm just trying to get myself in a spot where I can catch everyone and also not be in people's way. The waves are
Yeah.
so short on the grates where I'm like, I also don't want to ruin anyone's wave,
Yeah.
but I want to get that. I basically only get the drop of them coming down because then they
Oh,
ride
I
it for a little
see.
bit, then it's done. So I'm like always trying to get that
Now,
drop.
because of the danger component, though, I would imagine there's a pretty quick learning curve to this. Because if you don't learn, you're gonna get hit, or you're not going to get the shot. So, I mean, it seems to me you'd have to adapt pretty quickly and get dialed into what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. Um, I mean, I think the first great thing is the the water can be pretty unforgiving
Mm,
sometimes. So even the swim out
mm.
is a real like, are you ready for this? That
Oh,
like it
okay.
makes you question that. Then once you're out in the spot, it's kind of like I'm okay, and then it's the danger of the surfers.
Yeah.
Um, I've lucked out that I haven't really had. I've had more like bonks from my housing on my head than I have from a surfboard. A
Oh,
lot of
okay.
the time, if someone gets close, I just do the old like duck and cover and
Yeah, yeah.
and get out
Surfer's
of there.
helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because at
Um,
the end of the day, they have right away, right? Like
yeah.
you are the one in the way, um, not the surfers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of what the tough conversation is sometimes because if people don't know that I'm there, they're surprised and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that." I'm like, "No, no, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
Like you do your thing and I'll get out of your way. Like it's literally my job to
Yeah.
get out of your way. But it's just once again we're on Lake Ontario or Lake Erie or wherever. It's a new thing for most surfers. And
Yeah.
usually after it happens once, then it's all good. And I mean, I don't mind people at least worrying a little bit. It's okay for them to
Yeah.
worry a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But it'd be
That.
different if you were in San Clemente,
Oh
lowers or
yeah,
trestle or something like. Yeah.
yeah. Like
Your
I.
forgiveness factor might not be as much there.
Oh yeah. Like I. This past January, I got to sneak away to Hawaii for 10 days, and I shot there, and definitely a different. A talk about when we were talking about people who have studied photography or people who haven't, kind of like knowing your place and like, okay, I got to work in. I was more afraid of like, wow, I'm going to Hawaii where there's tons of water photographers. I'm not
Yeah.
like one of the only ones. I'm like,
No.
I got to make sure like I'm not in anyone's way photography wise in the
Yeah.
shot. I'm like, the surfers are going to friggin' send it and they don't
Yeah.
care who's in the water.
No.
And
No.
also the water's way bigger and doesn't care about who's in the water.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just
Hawaii
like,
doesn't care about who's in the water. I remember I almost got my head taken off by what do you call it? Those downriggers or
oh
outrigger
yeah.
canoe. Yeah. Ooh, you gotta be careful out there.
Yeah, it's serious.
Yeah. So Hawaii, I'm looking at some amazing blue water, beautiful photos, and I've had to do a second look today because I'm like, is that Jamie O'Brien and Tina Cohen? And
Yeah.
I think that is right.
Yeah.
So what happened there? How did that come about? You're playing in the big leagues a little bit.
Yeah. So that was actually a really really cool experience that I wasn't expecting
Okay.
at all. To be honest, all of Hawaii,
Okay.
because for the past while I had been planning to uh, go back to California.
Okay.
This time I wanted to go strictly as like a surf photography trip.
Mm.
I was um, I shot some photos of Kevin Schultz when he was in Toronto last
Okay.
time, and we've
Yep.
kept in contact ever since. And I was like, hey man, I'd love to come down, shoot some photos. Like he's the kindest person and also
Oh
an
yeah.
incredible surfer. I was like, I need to take photos with you. And he's like, trust me, man, if we go out, like there's other people to take photos of. And I was like, I want to kind of just work my way up the coast, take shots. Anyways, as soon as COVID hit, California was getting pretty sketchy to go there. I wasn't sure
Okay.
what was going to be open, what wasn't. I know I'm going to be in the water all the time, but I'm like, if all of a sudden they close the beaches, that's a really expensive flight just to go
Yeah.
sit on the shore. And then Antonio from Surf the Greats, he was like, man, we're gonna be in Hawaii. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome to. So I was
So
like,
who is that? Him and Lucas and some
yeah,
other people?
Antonio
Okay.
Lucas. And I was like, wow, Hawaii's never even been on my radar,
Yeah.
And I was like, this would be amazing. And then, like, it's a mixture of everything. I'm like, I'm kind of scared. Like, I don't know. Not that I know California really well, but I know it
Yeah.
at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I don't know anything about Hawaii. I just know that it's amazing and like a big surf. Somehow, I lucked out when I got there. Like, I was there for Super Swell Saturday, and I was there for like the biggest swell that they've had
Oh
in
wow.
decades, which is good and bad because I'm a
Okay.
noob, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, some small days would have been amazing.
Yeah. A little
But
bit of practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
but having them both there uh, taught me so much. Like
Mm.
like having people who know the spots and everything. Like Lucas, he unfortunately passed away about a month ago now.
Yeah.
He like I am forever grateful for him because especially at the beginning, I remember he said to me, he's like, I'm not trying to be a father figure. He's like, but I do want to keep you safe
Uh,
in the water. And I mean, like you said, Hawaii's no joke. Like it's not gonna. It takes no like. You got to be
yeah.
on
Yeah.
the ball. Um, so like one of my first days
What
shooting,
island were you guys on?
we were on North Shore, Oahu.
Okay, you're on Oahu.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay, I've surfed up there too. Gotcha. Yeah.
nice.
You're on your own. That's
Yeah.
definitely for sure. Yeah.
But like Antonio's really really strong with his water safety, and also a really strong surfer as well.
Mm. Yeah.
Once again, you're going in the water, like you don't want to ever rely on someone to be like, okay, I can do this because someone's going to rescue me. But it does
Yeah.
make you feel a little bit better being like, okay, we're here. So like swimming it with Lucas, and him kind of being able to say, no, you got to swim really hard here. We got to get out of this spot, or we got to get into here, because there's so much to take in that I'm not really getting it all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but so on that trip, before I had even gone, because I shoot some of the portrait stuff, I had reached out to Tina ahead of time, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be in Hawaii. I actually want to do some portrait stuff when I'm there. I wasn't even thinking anything surf related. I was like, I just want to do some portraits. Would you be up for doing some portrait stuff?
So this is when you do something like this, a call out. This is for your own portfolio. It's not. It's because I mean the idea of like, hey, I'm willing to give you free photos of yourself, like best call ever.
I know, and
like because photography isn't cheap, like, and we can all benefit from it, like whoever's in the industry. So
I just knew for me, especially going somewhere where I knew I wasn't going to know people.
Yeah.
I was like, I definitely want to do some portrait work when I'm there, because I know I won't be shooting surf every day. And Tina always seemed super cool, like in her vlog and everything. I was like, she seems super nice. I feel like she'd be a great person to shoot with. To be honest, not really thinking anything about Jamie at all.
Yeah.
And then, because I was like, I don't know, I'll probably never see him on the island. Like, he's probably just doing his thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, I shot with Tina that day, and then she said, hey, I'm going to be filming one of my vlogs later on this week. Would you be up to doing some video for it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I met her to film her vlog, and it was me and Jamie who were filming her for the vlog.
Yeah.
So we went to go on a little hike and everything. It was super cool. Both like incredibly nice people, and just like an awesome relationship to start. But it was right at the end of the trip, and like what a way to kind of send off the trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
I laughed because I said to Tina, I actually met them on the first day that I was there.
Okay.
But I was on my bike going to the grocery store, and I've only ever seen them on YouTube or on the internet.
Yeah.
And I stopped and was like, oh, hey. Like, I didn't, like, it was, I don't want, like, it's not like I was starstruck or anything, but I was like, oh, you're like in physical form.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this on my bike ride to Foodland, right? Right now, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I really, really wish I hadn't have been so awkward in that first interaction. But luckily, when I met them again, it was nice to
Dude,
chat.
I've went to quite a few like Comic-Cons and things like that. And so I've met quite a few celebrities, in terms of like, the handshakes and photo ops and all that kind of stuff. And so some of the ones that really stand out to me would be like William Shatner, Jason Momoa, what's his name? Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So these are some of the people I met, and they're like my big idols and stuff. I was at this event in Vancouver one time. It was a nonprofit event. I forget what it was for. It was some kind of gala or something for an organization I worked for. And the keynote speaker was, I believe her name is Mary Walsh. And she is one of the writers, but also stars of This Hour Has 22 Minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's a real like Canadian comedy icon, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Canadian comedy icon, like is, in perspective, that's like the nerves you'd have should not be that great compared to like Jason Momoa or William Shatner. Dude, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, I felt like such an ass.
I know. Like I think it's like in your mind, you think of like, oh, it'd be so cool to meet that person, and like, what would you talk about or something? And then when it happens, your brain can't catch, or your mouth can't catch up to your brain, or what? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to say things, but I actually don't have anything to say right now. And you're kind of like, cool. Well, have a nice day. I'm going to the grocery store.
Yeah, really. And then after, you're like, oh my god, I wish I would have asked about this or that or whatever. Yeah.
I think the only thing I said, I was like, "Hey, Jamie, is pipe working today?" And he's like, "Nah, maybe later." And I was like, "Cool." Like, does it matter? Am I gonna surf it? No. Am I gonna
No.
shoot it? No. Like,
So when you linked up with them later, did they remember who you were, or did you bring it up to them,
I
or?
I I mentioned it to Tina when we shot. I was like, it was
Oh,
so
okay.
because she recognized my face that day because I
Oh,
was like,
okay.
hey, I said, hey Tina. I didn't even acknowledge Jamie at first. I was like, hey Tina, and she was like, oh Sam, nice to meet you. And then when we did our shoot, I was like, I felt like such an idiot that day. I was like, I just wasn't expecting to see either of you, and I was like, oh, I feel like I should have something great to say, and
Yeah.
I don't. And she just laughed.
They
Um,
probably get that quite a bit. I mean,
oh yeah,
in a community like that where it's actually a really small community, and these folks aren't just out there on the red carpet, like they're real people at the surf. So it's not uncommon to bump into them. So I'm
yeah.
sure they're used to that.
And I think, to be honest, like even getting the opportunity to meet them both, like I got to hang out at Jamie's house that day, which is
Wow.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
But I think as soon as someone realizes that you're not a crazy person and
Mm,
you're just normal, like, doesn't matter who they are, they're also just a normal person, right? And you have a
absolutely. Yeah.
conversation and you hang out. It's not like, sure, it was cool for me to be able to look at, oh, my dog's coming in.
Oh,
um sure, it was cool to be able to like look at, awards that are on the wall and everything, but
yeah.
you're also just talking to someone as a human. And I was like, wow, this is really cool
Yeah.
to be here. But I thanked them probably a million times afterwards. I was like, I know
Yeah.
it probably seems like something small. I was like, but this is a really, really cool opportunity for me. So thank
Yeah.
you. And
Yeah.
like that's a relationship that you keep moving on forward. So it'd be like super exciting to go back. I mean, I'd love to shoot Jamie from the water one time.
For
Just
sure.
like he usually surfs in spots that I don't know if I'm ready
Mm.
to shoot. Like I want to shoot pipe really bad,
Yeah.
but it's like it can go bad quick.
Yeah.
Like I shot Waimea the day
Okay.
before Super Swell Saturday when I was there, and that was probably the scariest day of my life. I almost
I
threw up
believe
before
it.
I went in the water.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, and the funny story behind that is I actually wasn't. We went to the beach that day, me, Antonio, and Lucas, at
Hmm.
like 6 o'clock in the morning or something.
Okay.
We were going to shoot. All of us had a bad feeling about it, and
Mm.
we decided not to. Like, it wasn't very clean. It was just like nuts. Lucas went out on a jet ski that day, and he shot with some other people, like with some pros that were out there. I
Because
hung
he
out with.
was he quite into photography as well. Because I know his Facebook profile had a camera in it.
Yeah, he's like he was an incredible water photography person, both like underwater portraits, but he
Yeah.
shot like a lot of pro surf stuff and everything. So
Okay. Yeah.
he was definitely a brain that I picked when I was
Yeah.
like trying to get into it.
Yeah. And really
Um,
sorry, for your loss and all those who knew him. I didn't know him, but I'm glad that we're getting to talk about it on the show. I did want to address it at some point.
yeah,
Um, that there
it,
was a loss in the community. Lucas, what was his last name?
Murdigan.
Murdigan, yeah.
Yeah,
And was he a doctor?
yeah,
Okay, yeah. So he sounds like a really interesting guy. Like he
yeah.
kind of was all over the place.
He actually, I forget the name of it. But he has a TED talk that was out there, and he talked a little bit about like his transition from working as a surgeon to like focusing on his photography, like, and just knowing that he needed that change. And it's a really
Oh,
neat thing
so
to
he
watch.
actually did what you did. He wasn't doing both. He transferred from a
Yeah,
doctor into photography.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And just like I say, a huge wealth of knowledge. Because some of the stuff I shot first was like in pools and everything, and if I was like, hey, I don't even know what lenses to use, like what settings to use, and
Uh,
not all photographers will do that, right? Like some photographers is like, no, this is my little secret
yeah.
pile of information, and you don't get any. And he was like,
Mm,
no, you want to learn anything? Here. Before I had a housing, like he shot Nikon. Oh, sorry, he shot Canon. I shoot Nikon. But he was like, if you
okay.
want to use my housing, you can use it. Like, not many people offer that kind of stuff. It's a
Yeah.
very like
Uh,
very small group. Um, but yeah, so but that day at Waimea, so he was out, and then all of a sudden midday, I get Antonio was like, hey, the jet ski is dropping off Lucas at Waimea Bay, like in the water. He says we should meet him. And I was like,
mm.
oh my god, I thought I was finally off the hook. Like, I was like, I said, do you think I'm ready? And he said, yeah. And I said, does Lucas think I'm ready? And he says, oh, yeah, Lucas said, yeah. We get out there. I finally meet Lucas in the water, and he's like, oh, you came out. I was like, Antonio said you said I was ready. He's like, oh, I never said that. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm out here now.
You're
Like,
here,
I
yeah.
made, that's all I needed to hear was like
Yeah.
the trust from Lucas. And I was like, okay, I'm swimming out. But when you see 8 foot shore break, I was like, how does this happen? Like, how do we
Yeah.
get out there?
Wow.
How
Yeah,
does this
really.
work? And it was, I mean, I stayed pretty far in the channel
Hmm.
for a few reasons. A, I was like, I know that I'm not really prepped. If I get a bad hold down, I don't know if I'm gonna last.
Yeah.
And I was also like, there's a couple photographers out here who are really good, and I want like they have first priority. I'm cool even if I just float here and experience waves this big. But I
Yeah.
was able to get a couple cool shots, and it was a great day.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
When you were in Hawaii and you were hanging out with Jamie and Tina, did Lucas and Antonio get to experience any of that, or was that fully your own
No,
little side gig?
it was my own thing, and
Wow,
that
that is
was
pretty cool.
it was pretty cool. And I mean, and they even said that too. They're like, because I felt bad. So it was the last full day before I was going home, and like Antonio and Lucas were like, we're gonna go out for dinner tonight. So, but then I end up spending the whole day with Tina and Jamie, and I'm like, now I have this. I'm torn between two things because respectfully, I also want to go back and have dinner with the guys because they like this trip wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for them having me here. I'm like, but I'm also like having the coolest experience of my life, and I didn't expect
Yeah.
this was gonna happen. Um, and they were like fully on board for it. They were like, this is so cool. Like, we're so happy that you have this experience. And one thing that I thought I was so nervous to even ask because we ended up going to the west side of the island to shoot because everything was blown out
Oh, okay.
on the north shore. So we're just like we're in Jamie's truck, and I was like, I think I want to still have dinner with the guys. Like, how do I word this? And I was like, Jamie, is it okay if you drop me off at this place? And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, I'll just come get my memory card later on tonight. So I got like the best of both worlds. I got to have dinner with the guys, got to spend the day with Jamie and Tina.
Oh, right.
But I was like, I was so worried about like saying anything that would possibly be seen as disrespectful of the environment. They didn't see it that way at all. I was just like,
Oh,
hey,
right
it's
on.
my
Yeah.
last night here. Like, I don't want to leave the guys hanging. They're like, no, of course, just come back
Yeah.
later. It was awesome.
Oh, super cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
You know, I must say, like, although California can be an intimidating surf environment, like I say,
Hmm.
me learning to surf there, I got my head chewed off when I was there because
Uh,
I dropped in on someone and I didn't even know that I was dropping in on someone and they
yeah.
just ripped me a new one. Like, it was terrifying,
Yeah.
and I was like, I never
Yeah.
want to surf ever again.
Yeah.
um, but the surfers that I know down there, I know, like, I'm like, oh, wow, it's really not like that. It's just there is a certain element in the water that you have to be respectful of. It's a different place.
Yeah.
But it is nice, like, as a photographer, you do have a little bit of an in sometimes because people do want photos of them.
Yeah.
So they will, like, they'll get you in there and be like, no, we know this guy. It's
Mm.
okay. And if you go in with someone who's well known, you're like, okay, I'm safe. I know I'm safe here.
There's some protection, right
Yeah.
on. Nice.
Yeah, you're not just someone who's like, hey, I bought my first housing. I thought I'd float around and get in all of
Yeah.
your way. Do a little
Yeah.
photographer slalom.
Like if you're just some guy out there with a GoPro or an iPhone, like some people might not like you so much.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
gotcha. Now with the photography, Sam, like, so what does your career sort of look like, a day to day for you? What kind of stuff are you doing?
Right now, it's sort of a mix of a few different things. I always keep my portrait work on the go,
Okay.
and like now
That's
that's
the
moved.
real money for you, the substance?
Um, that and to be honest, and still headshots. Like
Oh,
headshots have
okay.
been there from day one. Surf photography has become like more and more paid, but I mean
Oh,
like
okay.
on the greats, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes you're busy, and most of the time you're not. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
depending.
yeah.
And to be honest, I really only go out on days that I know are going to be good, and usually when I know people are going to be out there.
Well,
Um,
I just bought a place we just bought a house on the Northern Peninsula. So Bruce Peninsula, so totally like raw environment, man, like rocks and trees, like kind of looks
Oh,
like
nice.
BC. So you're invited to come on over for a weekend, man. Hang out, we'll go surfing,
Oh,
you
thank you.
know,
I appreciate that.
and get some sick photos. I think it'd be really cool to capture some of that like real rawness. And there's lots of
Yeah.
rocks up there. You could get some sick photos. Plus, I'm always in need of photography for the brand and the podcast and stuff. So
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be awesome.
yeah, yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're doing a lot of the portrait stuff is keeping you busy, and the surf gigs are starting to be paid more. Now,
Yeah.
where are you? What are your goals with the surf work? Are you hoping to grow that to become international, to maybe even East Coast, West Coast of Canada? What are you thinking?
Definitely. So for me, I mean, like I always love being in the water and having that is like definitely sets you apart from other photographers because it puts you into a smaller gap of people.
Mm,
So my goal is to like be able to do that really, really well and have someone trust me and do that. But I really want to be able to combine the portrait work that I do. Like when I see whether it be like Rip Curl or Roxy or any of that stuff, like their bathing suit lines, clothing lines, wetsuits. I'd love to be able to shoot that stuff,
mm,
um,
yeah.
and to be able to do that, but also have them know that I'm also the person that can get in the water and shoot someone
Okay.
surfing in that same
Yeah.
attire. You know,
Yeah.
so that's truly my goal. Like I've never, it's still pretty fresh. Um, but there's a lot of really good surf photographers out there, and even those surf photographers have been like, I mean, like Zach Noyle is someone who I look up to
Okay.
immensely in Hawaii, and even he has said he's like, surf photography is not one of those things like no one does it to get rich,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
Even if I was in Hawaii, you know, like people are doing other things. They're not just like going in the
Okay.
water every day and making bank taking surf photos.
Yeah.
And I mean, because pros have people too, you know, like they know who's taking their photo and everything. They don't need to go to Joe Schmo and be like, "Hey, can I give you 20
Gotcha.
bucks for a
Yeah.
shot?"
Yeah.
Um, but I think just kind of bringing my skills to that whole environment. Like I love the portrait stuff, and it's still involved in the surf environment and all
Hmm.
that. And I mean, I would love to start Canadian as a Canadian. You know, like keep things local-ish. But like
Yeah.
I've never even been to the West Coast. I'm ashamed to say.
Okay. Well,
So
you're
I'd
gonna have
love
a blast when you do.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
like mountain biking too. I was like, if I could do surf photography and mountain bike in the same trip, God,
Oh
that'd be
yeah.
like that's like the absolute dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And there's a
but
lot of talented guys out there like Jeremy Koreski, Kyler Voss. I just had Marcus Palladino on the show.
yeah,
A lot of great West Coast photographers. I'm sure you could link up with out in Tofino and some of the pros out there too. You know, Noah and Matea and Pete. They probably would love to,
yeah,
you know, be
yeah.
photographed.
I
Yeah.
think it'd be so awesome, and just like to be able to show that Canadian side. You know,
Yeah.
I love the United States, but the U.S. gets so much exposure,
Oh yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
and there we have such a great environment up here, whether it be on
Yeah.
the Great Lakes or on our oceans. Like I would love like the East Coast is obviously closer to me, and I always think I'm like there's not a lot of people who are willing to get cold and take the
Hmm.
photos, which is kind of a neat thing too. I'm like I'm willing to freeze my ass off to take the
Yeah.
photos. So like
Yeah.
let's try some of the cold stuff. But yeah, I'd love to shoot in the East Coast. I mean, I think because I'm in love with California, my dream is always like, oh yeah, if I could shoot for like Roxy professionally and live in Santa Cruz or something, like that would be
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
ultimate dream. Um,
But you've
but
seen through those curtains a little bit to see that you're not just working for Roxy, you're working for Roxy and Red Bull and
yeah,
Yeti, and you got to have a full roster to keep
oh
your
yeah,
paychecks coming. Yeah.
definitely. And because like it's a good thing that keeps you on your toes, but there's so much great talent out there
Mm, yeah.
that you really have to be on the ball. And
Yeah.
that's where the whole battle is of like, are you just creating content or are you like being artistic?
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
because you don't want to lose sight of that either. Like, I want to go out and shoot photos because I want to shoot them, and if people want them and want to buy them, bonus.
So
But I,
30 years from now, we're reflecting back on Sam Moffatt's surf photography career. What do you want people to remember or take away from your photos?
um, I think for me, it would be being one of those surf photographers that's willing to get into the spot that some other surf photographer wouldn't
Okay.
necessarily.
So you
'Cause to
want
me,
to capture something that we're not used to seeing.
yeah, I think
Okay.
that's always, you know, people have seen amazing surfers. They've seen beautiful waves. Everybody's
Yeah.
seen them, and it's like how can I do something different? Um, I,
So
I,
where do you
I
stand with all the drone stuff? Because that is really capturing angles and things that we've never seen before.
yeah, um, it's it's funny. Like as a viewer, I love drone stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes when I'm in the water, I'm like, I can't believe this robot is doing the
Yeah.
doing this job for me, and like taking a really cool shot that I'll never be able to take,
Yeah.
like unless I have a helicopter or something, you know.
Yeah.
I
So
I
you
think
do some drone stuff?
I don't. I just
Oh,
like
you don't.
have seen
Okay.
it. Yeah, seen it in the
Yeah. You
environment.
see it flying around. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's funny because it's like, are you, what do you got to be better at? An eye for photography or just steering this thing?
yeah.
Like operating a remote control airplane, basically.
And to be honest, I think that is a. I mean, even just thinking of photo gear,
Yeah.
what I think is really neat is you can, and this is like for anyone starting, for anyone who's done it. I mean, I think Zach Noyle says this, or his dad said to him, like, the best camera that you have is the camera that you have in your hand at the time.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's so true. Like, I used to like poo poo like iPhones because it's like, no, you got to use a real camera to do this. I'm like, I've taken some shots that I didn't have my camera for, and I took it on an iPhone. It was composed well, and it was caught in the moment. That's what a good photo is. It's
Yeah.
not like you had to have the most expensive camera. Yeah, good tools always help you do your job. And if you're
Yeah.
getting paid for it, you need something that's reliable for it. Um, but I know I've had people ask, like, oh, I want to take some in water surf photos. How can I do it? Like, I don't want to drop $2,000 on a housing for a
Mm,
camera. I was like,
yeah.
yeah, no kidding. I didn't want to either.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like, do you have a GoPro? Do you have something you can put your phone? Like, there's ways to take the photos,
Yeah.
and you may not like everything. I don't like everything I take. Gosh, if you
No.
saw how many photos I throw out at the end of a surf session,
Mm,
it's like, but it's part of it. Um, like I have some friends who've only taken photos on an iPhone, and their Instagrams are just banging. Like
oh
I'm like,
yeah.
wow, you take incredible photos, and they're like, yeah, it's just all shot on my iPhone.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think no matter what technology comes out, drones or anything, because I could have a drone and take horrible photos and videos the whole time.
Yeah.
And there's also like drone pilots who it's like, wow, you really friggin' know what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
you're really good at this. So it is hard when everything gets introduced and something can do a job better and maybe easier than it was before. But
Yeah.
it's all part of it. There's no sense even trying to fight it because
Yeah.
it's going to happen no matter
It's
what.
there. It's there. It's your job to find those shots without it.
Yeah.
Because there's still room for those angles too. So
Yeah. And I mean, I luckily don't deal with that situation being in the water, which is why I love being in the water here because there's not many people in the water. But I mean, you can have 10 photographers in the water in Hawaii and it's still 10 different photos.
mm,
They're all
yeah.
thinking about that shot a different way. It's at a different moment. So I remember like this year got, I think probably with the pandemic happening, there was more people in the water surfing 100%, and there was more photographers out there. And
Mm,
I'd be lying if like I didn't get a little bit jealous sometimes when I was there, and I'm like, why are there so many photographers here? Like I kind of thought this was going to be my thing for a
yeah.
little bit, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'll be lying if I don't say that sometimes. And then like you get to know other photographers, and you're
Mm,
like, yeah, you know what? We're all here. Like we're trying to do the same thing. It doesn't have to be a competition. It's not anything.
yeah.
We're just all out there, and then we share images back and forth because sometimes we get photos
Cool.
of each other. Like, and to me, that's what the Great Lakes environment is
Nice.
all
Yeah.
about.
I know when I go to Kincardine, man, there are some long lenses out at the beach, like
Yeah,
with several people. It's become a real thing out there.
yeah, and that's even the thing too is sometimes there's that not a battle but um, like the thing between the water photographers and the land photographers.
Yeah, okay.
Like sometimes I'll jokingly see if I get out of the water, be like, "Where are your fins?" Or it's something just to be an
Yeah, yeah,
idiot.
yeah.
But it's also like I knew for me, I was like, am I going to invest in these long lenses to get the better shots from on
Mm,
land, or do I want to get in the water and do a different type of thing and go through that hard learning curve. And I was like, I've always loved being in the water,
Okay.
whether it be like windsurfing, swimming, anything. I was like, I think that'll be more fun
Yeah.
for me.
Right on.
And I mean, and I love seeing all the images. It's like, I'm not like, oh, I only look at water photography images.
Yeah.
Like, I love,
No.
or even some like really far back. It doesn't have to be the super close shot. And I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of taking that photo, but I'm happy you did, because it's amazing. So it's really cool to
Yeah.
share that between photographers as well.
Right on. Man, most of my surf photos are from like a disposable underwater camera from like
Yeah,
the early 2000s. Yeah, they're just so grainy and terrible. So I gotta get out there with you sometime and get the real deal, you know?
definitely.
So dude, when you're not surfing, man, what else are you stoked about other than music?
If it's not surfing or music, it's definitely mountain biking.
Ah, okay.
That's my muse.
You really? Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as the surf, because I mean it's kind of on its way out for a lot of it now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, boom, summertime is coming. We're gonna be on the trails all the time.
Nice. So does your
Um,
photography translate over to the trails?
I have taken a couple biking shots, but now you know how before I was like, if it was surfing versus photography, I'd rather have a camera in my hand.
Yeah.
When it's biking, I'm like, I really don't want to take a photo. I just want to be biking,
Okay.
you know?
Gotcha. So that's really your jam then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
there's a Canadian athlete, Emily Batty, who she's like the top female mountain biker in Canada.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity to shoot some stuff for her. Her family
Oh,
they
nice.
have this thing called Batty Cross, and they do a race on their family property. So that's always like a really neat way to shoot some biking stuff
Oh, cool.
there.
Now, what about skate photography? I would think that that's, not too far from your wheelhouse.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't really do it before, and then just this spring, I asked a couple people to go out and do it. So I'm going to start doing more of that.
Okay.
Like once again, it's an environment that I really like being in. I'm not a
Yeah.
great skater,
Yeah.
but I think anytime you understand a sport to a certain amount, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I know what looks good and what doesn't.
Exactly.
To be honest, it's why I've like shot a lot of like video and photo for dance as well. Not that I'm a
Oh,
dancer, but
yeah.
I've been in that environment enough that I was like, no, I know what you need and what you think will look good, and it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
I think anyone in the board sports is like, they're always really cool to work with, and all their friends usually don't mind that you're around, which is nice.
No, for sure. Yeah. No, people are stoked that you're out there taking photos.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I'm looking here on your Instagram. That's right. You do got some pretty cool skater photos as
yeah,
well.
just those are from Toronto.
Oh, you got some kite surfing on a foil.
Yeah, that's
Um,
Dan Steiner.
Lots of modeling too. Yeah, lots of portraits and those as well. I'm seeing. Yeah, really good work.
Thank you. It's an interesting thing because as the seasons change, like sometimes people will think I'm just a portrait photographer, and then
Oh,
all of a
okay.
sudden surf season starts, and then people think I'm only a surf photographer. And it's
Yeah.
funny to see the followers go in and out as well, because sometimes the surfers leave when it's just like pictures of girls coming up, and they're like, okay, like, where are all the surfers? Like, I don't. And then all of a sudden surf season
Yeah.
comes back, and then they filter back in again.
Yeah. Like I see one here of a horse. Yeah, it's like if you put a couple of a horse, I wouldn't really peg you for a surf photographer. I'd
Yeah,
probably unfollow you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. But I get the idea what you're all about here. Definitely, lots of music and surfing and all the fun stuff, man.
Yeah,
Really cool. Really great work.
thank you.
And
Yeah,
who's
for
the
now,
person playing volleyball in the snow here? Holy.
that's Megan Nagy.
Okay.
She's on the Canadian Olympic volleyball team, beach volleyball team.
Wow. She's
Um,
brave.
yeah, I met her through a friend, and she said to me, she's like, I have this idea for a shoot. That's at Ashbridges Bay. She's like, I want to go down to Ashbridges in the wintertime and do some shots. And I remember I said to her, I was like, do I need to get you to sign something that says like if you get frostbite that it's not my fault? I was like,
Yeah,
because
really.
if I ruin your athletic career, I don't want to be the person. I just want everyone to know you asked
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
this.
for sure.
Yeah, that was a really fun day. It was very cold for her though.
Now I see some here. a DJ, a guy with a mic. So it must be nice when you can merge those worlds and go to some concerts and stuff like
Yeah.
that, eh?
Well, I think even like I was saying about the sports stuff, with doing the concerts, um, once again, it's tough to get someone to trust you first because there's a lot of people who use a camera as a backstage pass, right? They're like,
Mm.
"Hey, I can take photos. Can you get me in?"
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but having a music background, um, like that, yeah. There's one guy playing keyboards. That's Nico is where the band's name Anomaly. They're from Montreal, and I reached out to them. I loved his music, like just as a keyboard player.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I'd love to shoot for him when he comes into Toronto. So I reached out to his tour manager, and when they know like you know where to be and where not to be
Mm.
during a concert, it means a
Yeah.
lot to musicians, right? Because you're not just there for the photo. You're like, yeah, I want to get this photo, but I also know that this is an experience for the crowd. This concert isn't there
Ah,
for me, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love being in that environment. And I've always loved electronic music as well. So whenever I've done festivals or things, I'm like, this is the best. I was like, I don't get to party the same because I'm working. I was like, but I get to
Yeah,
feel the
yeah,
music and be around. And I mean, it is pretty cool being able to be that close to the artists to take
yeah,
photos.
absolutely. Yeah, man. So, hey, as we wrap up, it's COVID time right now. And one of the things I like to ask people, because we're all looking for something to do sometimes, I like to know, what are people watching, reading, listening to? Is there anything cool out there that you're stoked on right now? Netflix or a book or anything?
Um, actually a book that I picked up in Hawaii, which I started a little bit of, and I need to get back into it. So I'm one
Okay.
of those like once I get into a book, I'll do it. But if I only give it a little taste, then I leave it aside for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
But I bought Eddie Would Go, and it's like this Eddie
Oh,
Aikau's
Eddie, yeah.
biography. Um,
I
and
have that book, but I haven't cracked it open yet. So how are you finding it?
I even just from the beginning of it, I really, really, really enjoy it. And I
Oh,
feel
okay.
like since you've been to Oahu as well, like you start to picture those things
Uh,
in your brain, and you're like, yeah, I've seen that spot, like I've been there.
okay.
um and I think it'll be really interesting. Like what I loved about Hawaii was there's this such like a spiritual side of
Oh,
it that I
yeah.
feel like I
Did
didn't
you go to
really
the Polynesian Cultural Center when you were there?
I didn't.
That's
um
too bad. Next
I
time.
Yeah, I definitely have to, like it was very surf focused, like
Yeah,
just a lot, and which was amazing because that's kind of what I was there for. But I do
yeah,
feel like I missed out on a lot, and it just makes
yeah.
me want to go back more and more.
They do a
um
great job at that cultural center because each nation, at the performance night, each nation, like Samoa, Hawaii, whatever it is, they all do their own rituals and dances and things. You go
Amazing.
for like a pig barbecue, and oh man, it's just, yeah, really awesome time.
That's
But
incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd love, like, and you can sense that
hmm,
when you're there. Like, there's so
yeah,
much culture there, um, and lots of people who are willing to talk about it if you just ask,
yeah.
which is really, really, really cool. Um, but yeah, that I'm reading that right now, and I mean Netflix. I'm kind of all over the place. Usually, I put on
Okay.
Netflix to fall asleep, so sometimes
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes I don't care. But Bert Kreischer is one of my favorite comedians, so
Oh,
sometimes
okay, yeah.
I'll put on some of his stuff.
Yeah, my
Um,
brother-in-law is really into him. I haven't checked him out. I'm not too aware yet. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think his comedy just resonates with me.
yeah, oh,
Seems
right
like
on.
really
I'll have
down
to
to
check
earth and
that
just
out. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He seems like a regular Joe, doesn't he?
yeah.
Yeah,
He's one of those people, like once again where you watch, you're like, frig, I want to meet that guy, or like I want to have a
mm,
beer with that guy. He seems so
yeah.
cool.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
So that Eddie book, though, what have you learned about him as a person that was unique or interesting, or what was he all about?
I'm only at the like only just into the beginning of it.
Okay, pretty
Um,
early on, yeah.
but you can tell like just even from the beginning, he's such a dedicated person to what he does.
Yeah.
Like he has
Okay.
something in his mind. And I'm not like trying to compare myself to Eddie Aikau at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what I loved, I was like, I get very focused on something. Like if I want to achieve something, I almost get the blinders on. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to like if I fail, that's okay. But I'm gonna do this, and I have to
Yeah, yeah.
try it. So when you read about that, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like
Yeah.
such a strong and like and spiritual human doing all this, and I can't wait to learn
Yeah.
more. about him, because even just seeing like the lifeguard tower, I haven't got to any of his lifeguard stuff yet in it, but I was like,
Okay.
that lifeguard tower at Waimea Bay is like, it's essential. It saves
Yeah.
people every single day in the water, you know. So I can't wait to get to that part too.
Well, if you like that book, I can recommend another one for you. It's called Waterman by David Davis, I believe. And it's the story of Duke Kahanamoku.
Okay.
And so, the guy with the statue and everything at Waikiki, the grandfather of surfing. So,
Yeah.
again, another amazing book. And what I really liked about that one was learning his struggle of being, a brown person, essentially, um, back in the olden days. And because surfing was an amateur sport, like this guy, man, he never got paid a dime really for doing this. Meanwhile, like billions of people were coming to Hawaii as a direct result of him.
Yeah.
Inspiring tourism is really kind of sad in a lot of ways, but also really inspiring that he pushed through all that and he was so resilient despite all the odds. So yeah, that's really cool, man. I'm looking forward to cracking that book open eventually. I know right now I'm reading a book for this podcast. There's a guy who wrote a book called Kings of the Earth,
Okay.
and it's a fiction horror story, but it's set on the Great Lakes and with surfing in the background, kind of. So
Cool.
I'm reading it as research for interviewing him. But I'll tell you, man, I am struggling to read off of a phone. It's the first time I've ever read a ebook. Oh man, it like puts me right to sleep. Like I would think that I would have the opposite reaction because it's on a blue screen, but oh man, I just go straight to bed. I can't tell you how many times I've read chapter 1 over and over again.
I know. Well, and that's the problem with me. Like, I've never been a huge reader, but when I like something, I really, really like it. But I always have this issue where if I feel like I missed something, I have to go back and do it again. And it's probably why I get frustrated. It's not that I can't physically, like I can't read fast enough. I'm like, I just reread things because I think I missed it. So
there's a difference between reading and comprehending what you read.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Like you can just blast through and not remember or it makes sense at all. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Awesome. Well, hey, dude, it has been amazing having you on the show, Sam. Where can people find you on the web?
You can find me, my Instagram is at sam.moff, M-O-F-F. If you want to check out any of my music stuff, it's at i.m.sam.music.
Nice.
You can usually find it through my photography account. Yeah, and that, like, I always got stories going on. I love talking to my phone and letting the world know what's going on.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the best spots to see it. And sometimes I do live streams of music, or if I'm at a surf spot, I usually do a little video from there. So it's the best spot to find me for sure.
So find you on Instagram. You also have a website, sammoffatt.com, is it?
No, it'll be Sam Moffatt Photo.
sammoffattphoto.com.
I should know, but I'm going to type it in right now. It's Sam Moffatt Photography.
And that's Moffatt with 2 F's and 2 T's.
2 F's and 2 T's.
Yeah.
It's sammoffattphoto.com. Wow, I'm a great business person. Yeah, sammoffattphoto.com.
Yeah, way to know your own website. So when I was in high school, a few of us, we had some friends, and we were all kind of seeing these girls who went to this private school in Toronto. I don't know if you know it. It's the Havergal School for Girls.
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So we thought we were real cool, man, seeing girls from private school. Anyway, the one girl that my buddy was seeing back then, her name was something. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot her first name. But her last name was Moffatt. But
really?
What I learned though was that I guess there's a appliance company called Moffatt. I think it's from Newfoundland. And anyway, she was part of that whole, I don't know what you want to call it, dynasty or, Canadian appliance dynasty, if that's a thing. I don't know. Are you related to the appliance people or no?
Not related to the appliances and not related to the band either.
Oh, there's a band called Moffatt?
Yeah, the Moffats. And
Oh,
when I realized I was getting a little bit older,
yeah.
is people stopped asking that. Because when I was younger, people were like, "Oh, do you know the Moffats?" I was like, "No, I don't know the Moffats, and it's spelt differently." Then
Uh,
like if there's someone who I'm teaching now, if I was like, "Well, do you know the Moffats?" They're like, "Who's that?" I was like, "Okay,
uh,
yeah, I've reached that. I've gone over that."
what kind of music are they? I'm thinking like Hanson or some kind of
Yeah, they are. They
boyish
are
band.
exactly like the
Yeah,
Hansons.
okay. I think I
I don't want to call them the B-list Hansons, but they're kind of they're kind of like the B-list Hansons.
right on, man, right on. Well, people are always asking me if I'm of any relation to the Hyatt hotel chain,
Oh
and
yeah,
if I did, would I be sitting here in this bedroom like
yeah.
with the lights off, can't even pay for hydro? I don't think so.
I feel ya. I feel ya.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Well, hey, man, it's been great having you on, buddy. And until next time, stay stoked.
Thanks, man.